other issues surrounding.
Oh wait, we're live on the YouTube.
We're live.
Can you adjust something?
I guess I can't get up now.
You're not supposed to.
Oh, it's Jake the Jula.
Oh, Jacob. Oh.
The Jula.
How are you?
Jacob the Jula.
Ah.
Okay. So let's start with Botham.
Okay.
You want to start with Botham?
Okay, so I don't know if you guys all know the situation about Botham. We're not gonna go through the whole thing over again. But basically, he was shot in his apartment by Amber Geiger, a former police officer of Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
On November 30th, she was indicted on murder, right? Murder charges.
Yes.
So that's some really great news. I don't know if you guys saw our video, but there was some additional information we wanted to just catch you guys back up on. We're not quite sure if you actually watched the video where we gave you an update on Botham. But we wanted to tell you guys what's going on.
Yes.
So
yeah, basically, the main thing that's going on in Botham, which we feel like was a victory, was the fact that Amber Geiger, she was indicted on murder charges.
It's a big victory.
Versus the manslaughter charges. But the main thing here, which I think is like super, super, super important, is that Esley Merritt.
Yes.
I guess he's a part of the team that surrounds Botham.
That's representing the Shimjon family.
So basically, the unauthorized practice of law committee put 16 counts against him. Wait, when was this? This was compounding over about 2 years already. Just to give you a little background on Esley Merritt, he's been doing other works in Texas. He's represented a civil rights attorney that's represented, I believe, another 3 families in Texas. Yes.
Who all fall under the umbrella of dealing with police brutality and just sort of that civil rights and justice. So that's kind of where he stands.
Yes.
So they were basically charging him with unlawful practice of law.
Yes.
Right? So basically saying that because he was practicing law in the state of Texas, which he is able to do on the federal level, which is where he was practicing law.
Exactly.
They brought up these counts carrying 6 months each. So just kind of sort of let you know about, this victory, the double victory that we've really had in this situation. Where I believe it was 16 counts, right?
16 counts of criminal contempt.
The first 14 were dismissed in front of the judge.
Immediately.
And the last 2 were dismissed upon an argument based on his defense. But we're really just saying this just to give you an update because that's really important to know that there's this man, Esley Merritt, is based out of Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And he is out here doing the work. Okay, he needs, we're trying to get all of our followers and the people that watch our show to want to know who he is, find out who he is, right?
Facts.
And to give him some support.
Facts.
You understand what I'm saying? Because this is a man who is out here doing the fight. And, we celebrate a lot of people. We talk about Sean King or DeRay Davis.
Yes.
DeRay McKesson?
Yes.
McKesson, excuse me. DeRay Davis.
That was cute.
But
I knew who you were talking about.
Yeah.
I knew who you were talking about.
But we want to continue to uplift these people who are, a major part of our movement, who are in this fight and in this struggle because it gets very difficult, as you can see. He's been fighting this for 2 years.
He's been fighting good on the behalf of his clients, and the system is trying to stop him. So just imagine that, like someone who is like fighting on behalf of what they know is right. Things that are very clear and apparent as it pertains to police brutality, like what we know about what happened with Botham. Amber Geiger came into his apartment, shot and killed him, mistaking it to be her apartment. So now this unauthorized practice of law committee is coming out, and he can't be saving someone. He can't be helping someone. So yeah, thank God for that. There are people who are actively out there because we all see it in our everyday lives, but there are people actively out there stopping people from bringing justice to people's families, like actively stopping them. So
I just want to jump in real quick. So, because part of this conversation, I think, is about prison reform.
I agree.
And there's been a massive passing. I believe it's in the Senate. It was in the Senate today. I only got to read about it very briefly. But basically, it was to slim the margins between crack charges and cocaine charges.
Okay.
Retroactively affecting people's sentences. So there is some work that is occurring, and the point is to quote unquote save money, right? Hey Dana, hey girl, how you doing? Happy birthday. Don't know if you're still here, but we need to talk about the class reunion if you got a little time.
This is not the place for that.
it's important to know that there are small victories that are occurring. And a lot, like I was saying, a lot of people said it's about money, a cutback on finances. But a victory is a victory, especially when they're going back and retroactively, changing people's sentences. It's a small victory, and they're going about smaller sentences as well. Which is a big deal.
I'm about in this fight, whatever the fight may be against the system. I think we should definitely, take every victory.
I mean, whatever victory we can get.
Well, I'm looking for a major victory as it pertains to Cyntoia.
Okay.
Cyntoia Brown. We haven't really talked much about this openly together, but I think the Cyntoia Brown case is overall spurs a lot of conversation.
Yes, it covers a lot of ground. Very
facts.
Intersectional, and it's.
So let's give it a. I feel like you're more ready to give a breakdown.
Little synopsis. Okay,
so
I'm not
if you guys
y'all
don't know about the Cyntoia Brown case, but I'm pretty sure for maybe a lot of people similar to me, this was kind of a new story for me, a new case where this story literally goes all the way back to 2006.
Yes. Oh,
so,
actually,
so over 10 years ago.
Was it 2006 or 2004 when was she?
I think it was 2000.
I have to double check because I think it's 2004 and she
it
was
might
charged
be 2004.
It
might be 2004.
Sentenced in 2006.
Yes.
But to tell you her story, she was
you might be right.
A young woman who was forced into sex trafficking. So on August 6, 2004, she was picked up by a 43-year-old man who picked her up to pay for sex. And from her understanding, he reached over on his nightstand when they were at his house. She thought he was grabbing his gun, and she shot him. Mm-hmm. She took money, she took his car, and she ran off, and she was caught by
guns. She took guns as well.
Took guns, money, and his car.
Aww. Yeah, it truly is an injustice, and it actually is very, 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 very sad and heartbreaking because it just shows a major, major flaw in our system. I mean, continually showing us major flaws in our system. Cyntoia was 16.
Yes,
when this all happened. But let's not forget her life before then. Where she was given up for adoption. She's been living on the streets.
Her mother was drinking a pint of whiskey when she was pregnant with her. Which, I mean, I don't say these things to, justify the behavior or defend it. But it's important to understand the systematic failures that occurred that led to this point that she's on the street and she's now, a prostitute, basically.
Facts.
Not basically, but she is a prostitute. You know what I mean? It's systematic failure, and it's important to talk about the ways that she's been failed, whether it be the justice system not protecting sex workers, or young people of color, especially being tried as adults in the court system,
or the justice system protecting a dead pedophile. Please let's not forget that. Which I think, to me, I don't want to really bring the race thing in here today at this second, but I think that we are all forgetting. And I'm happy to remind you and bring this to your attention that this man, however he died, picked up a 16-year-old girl at the age of 43 for the purpose of sex, And Cyntoia did admit to saying that she lied about her age, but, I mean, I just want to be completely real. I'm a 31-year-old woman now, right? And let me just go out on a limb and say that when I was young, maybe I lied about my age, but I think someone who is looking to sleep with young women, sleep with young women. Because it's very apparent that I'm 16. It's very apparent that I'm 18 to a grown-ass man. It's talking to her, looking at her.
Pedos pay their taxes, hard truths. Yeah, that's fine. You can pay your taxes all you want, but is it really our justice system's job to completely defend you, or at least criminalize the person who you are actively victimizing?
They literally threw the book at her.
Yes.
They literally threw the book at her when this man was having sex with a 16-year-old girl. I mean,
so for me to get past the idea that she lied about her age, because I'll give that as a okay, whatever. You're still paying for sex. right? You're still actively armed, right? And the reality is that we don't really know what happened behind those closed doors, but the way our system has taught us and has ingrained our thought process, we're taught to believe of prostitutes, strippers, sex workers as less than, as a lesser class than us. So their voices carry less weight to them.
Facts. I agree.
You understand what I'm saying?
I agree 1,000,000% that is the perception that society has as it pertains to
child abusers get less time than drug dealers. I absolutely agree. But it's important to talk about these things and understand that there's a systematic problem. And we've got to ask ourselves, why aren't we trying to protect these women? Who benefits from not protecting sex workers?
But if it's a white boy who rapes a girl, they get off with a slap on the wrist.
You said it, not me.
Hence why they are defending a dead white man who is a pedophile. He is a whole pedophile. And just the fact that he's dead makes him... I don't know.
I mean, but to some extent, like, if you want to say, you know, she opted into this and she decided to do this, she should serve time for it. It's 2018. She's been in jail since 2004.
Oh my gosh, she's 30 now.
You understand what I'm saying? That's 14 years served. And this is a conversation that me and Antoinette were talking about the other day. Do we believe in rehabilitation in this country? Do we believe that people really deserve second chances? Because we talk about how great America is, how awesome it is, and how this is the place of second chances, but we don't believe in giving people, especially people of color, second chances. Mm-hmm. You know, he deserved 10,000. I feel like, you know, and maybe he wasn't a bad guy. You understand what I'm saying? No, hear me out. Maybe he's this damaged person and he's having sex with 16-year-old girls. Doesn't make it right, not defending his behavior, right? This is somebody who is now put in this position, right? No matter what you want to say about her, once she was 16, so she was still a child. Understand that, right? And she is someone who has been abused and manipulated for so many years that when you make a rash decision like that, you're not really even sure what you're doing. Like it's you don't really even think about the repercussions of it.
Exactly.
You understand? Like it's important to understand that this woman shouldn't serve 51 years in jail. Oh, well. She shouldn't serve a life sentence. Well. You know? Well. And I think it's great that, you know, everybody's reaching out to the governor for clemency, because I think I think we should,
but we don't do it, and I think that's as it pertains to the second chances.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But you know what I mean? Where's this person's second chance? You know, and if you can be, and I'm going to reference what Christine said, but if it's a white boy who rapes a girl, they get off with a slap on the wrist. Everybody gets a second chance. Actually, only white men get second chances. You know what I mean? Like, how fucked up is that? How crazy is that reality? You understand? And we have to really hold our representatives should be standing up and reaching out to Tennessee representatives and saying, hey, this is a systematic failure.
Wow, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the things that I think we're also trying to push with, you know, anybody that's watching, anybody that shares this video, is to reach out to the people that represent you. Reach out to the people who you vote for. Because these are the people whose offices you can call 5 days in a row.
Facts.
Right? And at some point, they're going to reach back up to you. Because you can only blow so much smoke and dust up so much stuff before somebody has to pay attention to you.
Facts.
And that's a part of our power.
Well, that was basically how this whole Cyntoia thing got dredged back up, because the man who made the documentary about her life was showing basically how this system had wronged this girl. This was her life, and basically was demanding some sort of reform as it pertained to her sentencing, and which called out a lot of people to like relook into the case and demand explanations as to the sentencing that she was given. Like, it was a lot, and that's how you make change. That's how you bring attention to things that need attention.
I feel like one of the biggest difficulties is, and right now we're focusing on this, it's the reason we talked about Botham Shinjan is because we want to get out of the habit of letting these stories fall to the wayside.
Facts.
Because that's what happened to Cyntoia.
Facts.
Okay?
Oh my God.
We stopped talking about her because the next, you know, civil rights issue of the moment came to our face, and we started flight or fight. She was in survival mode. Agreed. But, you know, we get very distracted very easily. And it's very easy to, because there's so much going on every day, all the time. You know, if you're dealing with the Trump administration, and then you're dealing with the Black Lives Matter movement, and then you're dealing with the Me Too movement, and it's all intersectional, and it becomes very frustrating. But we want to be the people that help you do it. We want you to have these conversations with us. We want you to go out and have these conversations with the people that you know.
Yes,
because it's
yes.
important that we keep talking about these things. We can't continue to let people fall to the wayside.
Facts. I mean, I couldn't even have said that. I think that ultimately, you know, just as it pertains to Cyntoia's situation and her story is so deep. Like, I think as it pertains to her background, where she's at now, how long she's been in jail, you know, and what her story in her life has like been like since being in jail. Like, so let's just say that
she got her associate's degree, which she did.
Say that, you know, she's granted the clemency. Like, we only hope that, you know, the system backs behind her as it pertains to rehabilitating her and helping her deal with some of these past traumas that she's experienced, rather than just throwing her back into the, like, oh, all this pressure from the media.
Well, I think in the 14 years that she's been in there, you know, she's been somebody who's reached out to other inmates. She's been, you know, she's gotten her associate's degree. She's done all of these things to show that, you know, who she was as a 16-year-old isn't who she is now. And I mean, we can forgive Brett Kavanaugh, like the Supreme Court Justice.
I didn't forgive him.
I mean, I'm not talking about me. I'm just like our standards and practices, people. Like, what do we hold as value, and how do we hold people accountable? Tennessee is a red state. Good luck with Congress over there. I lived there, and they would call my daughter sister because she is black. A few years ago, a black man was hanging out there, and nothing was said. It's a reality, and thank you for saying that, Chris, because it's important for people to understand that one, lynching still happened. There's a mother whose son was recently lynched, and it's been all over social media, but the main news streams have not been talking about it. You know, understand that these things are still happening, and we have to keep talking about them, because there, for the grace of God, go I. You understand what I'm saying? I take trips down south. We take, you know, Atlanta, Georgia. We all do these things.
Yes.
You know, but for the chance of you walking into the wrong place or making the wrong turn, that could be the end of your life.
Facts.
I'm pretty sure the mom, the young man who was just recently lynched, his name was Donye Jones, and his mother. They say that he was targeted because his mother was black rights activist.
Civil rights activist.
But I mean, like, cause that, you just like struck such a hard chord in me that, like, just the whole reason why the FBI was even like created was to bring down the Black Panthers. So just think about the mind state of the enforcers here, right? Their whole thing is to be so on top of black radicals, or like the black messiahs, like people who are actually fighting for these things. Like, it is a very, very scary position to be in, to fight so hard and know that you can only fight so far before they come and get you. You know?
Well, I think it's important to understand that this fight that we're in, it's still very dangerous.
It's
you know, in Missouri, multiple Black Lives Matters members have been murdered. You understand what I'm saying? But it's not a main topic of conversation. People burned in their cars. You understand? People are still being targeted because it's still an issue. So we still have to kick up dust. We still have to fight for this.
The thing about it is that the fear that lives within Black people, or really anyone who stands up against the system, right? The fear is so ingrained that I think that's what kind of like hurts the fight, you know, because it goes all the way back to slavery. So like, okay, if I don't act right, I'm gonna get lynched, I'm gonna get whipped, I'm gonna get this.
You know, I think.
But even with them letting us free, it's like, stay over there to your corners, because if you come over here, it's gonna be like this. So like, the fear of ruffling white feathers comes with this vision of death. You know, and I think that
I agree.
And
that's a very valid point.
And I think that we value our lives. We just want a little bit more equality in the game.
I think we also have to understand that the visibility that existed for people of color and the deaths and the fight of people of color was a lot more. It was more visible. You understand? Yes. So yes, we have all of these outlets and all of these aspects of media that are reaching out to us and talking to us, but we're talking about how do you make your Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? We're not talking about the Black Lives Matters member that were burned down. And now we're talking about Cyntoia, but we were probably talking about Cyntoia 5 years ago because Facebook brought it up to us.
Yes.
You understand? Yes. It's just about us. We have to. I think we really have to have a cultural shift where we have a genuine focus on changing our justice system. And I think we are in the steps of doing that.
I agree. I agree that the fight is louder than it's been for a while. I agree with that. I agree.
I mean, I feel like things like Cyntoia's situation become very difficult, though, like as we mentioned before, because you have to pick which one you're going to focus on. You understand what I'm saying? This is I feel like it's a case that has so many issues that you get lost in the thought process of like, well, are we going to focus on the fact that she's a black woman? Are we going to focus that she's in a Republican state and she's a person of color? Are we going to focus on the fact that she's a sex worker? Are we going to focus on the fact that she was abused as a child? Like, where do we decide to say, or do we focus on the fact that, here's another young black person charged as an adult? You understand what I'm saying? Where do you?
I mean,
it becomes it's so loaded, this situation.
I mean, I hear you. I agree with you 1,000,000% about that there's so much going on that it's hard to focus. But I think that we just need to focus on what's right and what's wrong. Like the fact that this 16-year-old girl who has this past, which we cannot deny, we cannot discredit, was picked up by a 43-year-old man who, in one way or another, knew this girl was not of age to be having sex with her.
Oh, he knew she was a prostitute. Bare minimum, he knew she was a prostitute.
But regardless if she was a forced prostitute, sex worker, whatever the case is, she was not of age to be having sex of consent.
She was not of age to be charged as an adult. And I think for me, that's one of the things that I'm very, very passionate about in this situation is that, and I think I can think back to the first time being a child and hearing about like somebody who was like 12 or 13 and maybe at the time I was 9. And I want to say it was a little black boy in Florida who was like playing around with like his little brother or sister, and something happened and the kid ended up getting like suffocated or broke something. The kid ended up dying. And they ended up charging this little 12, 13-year-old as an adult. And all I could think is like...
Could you even imagine?
As a 28-year-old, you know what I mean? I couldn't imagine it as a child. Now as an adult, I can't even wrap my mind around something tragic happening to me as a 12 or 13-year-old. And that literally dictating the rest of my entire life.
But then think about like... Okay, so they threw the book at Cyntoia, right? She's already been in jail since she was 16. But think about the little boy who made a mistake now, right? And now his whole life is basically being ruined by this mistake. Child mistake, who knows how the situation happened. And he's gonna go into this system now, and however long when he becomes free, like what is his life gonna look like?
Your life is prison. It's all you know is the system. You literally are groomed now to stay in that system because it's all that you know.
He's not. He went in there when he was 12 by a mistake. That shit hardened him.
And then you serve full sentences. You get put in adult prisons. You understand what I'm saying? And I think that one of the more important things about this situation is that even if she does get clemency, and we do get the satisfaction of her getting clemency, we still need to be talking about this case as an example of the massive failures that occur in our justice system. She needs to be something, because like I said, beyond the fact of her having murdered this person, she was still a child at the time.
Facts.
You understand what I'm saying? Like there's more weight to this story.
It opens up a lot of conversations.
Yes.
A lot of conversations. Runaways. Like how are these girls getting hooked up with these people that are forcing them into these things? It's like, it's so many conversation that swirls around this. Why are we not taking mental health into account when it comes to black people and committing murder? Like,
how is her mental state
not considered?
Not considered in this sentencing?
Someone told me that there was evidence and proof that she was like operating on like an 11-year-old mindset at the time of the murder.
I mean, what else could you have if you probably have a fetal alcohol syndrome, right? You ran away from home when you were a child, right? You're not getting any form of education.
You've been beaten, raped, abused.
And just once, like, and I know we all understand, what pimps do and how they break their, they break prostitutes down and all that stuff. But I feel like the one statement.
I think this is really. I read this.
She said, like, really, really stuck out to me, like, and it might seem really simple, but it's really crazy.
It's not.
He would explain to me that some people were born whores, and that I was one, and I was a slut, and nobody wanted me but him. And the best thing I could do was just learn to be a good whore. That's what she said at her parole hearing. Like, you understand, those words, those thoughts, those feelings are so ingrained in who she is, in her body, and her feelings. Like, that affects your mindset. It affects who you are as a person. You cannot charge this woman who clearly had a younger person's mindset than she did at the time, having been on the street for as long as she had. You understand what I'm saying? Being mentally, emotionally abused, probably being, drugged up. We have to do better.
Because he hitting it with the facts.
Our justice system isn't for us, and that's in the Constitution. That's very accurate. That's very accurate. But that's what I'm saying. Right now we're talking about Cyntoia, and I think we need to not just, I think we definitely agree that we need to talk about the multiple aspects of what this case is. So, I mean, as the details come forward, I think we'll keep talking about it.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, at this point, I feel like it's, because they're saying that, what is it, the governor?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to make a decision by the time he leaves office in January.
Mm-hmm. So
we're all going to be waiting on the edge of our seats to see what happens. But I think that this is going to be a big fucking deal if he doesn't.
I think so too.
I think this is not good. I mean, I don't really get involved with the South. They scare me basically.
That
down
Mason-Dixon
there.
line get real weird.
I don't really involve myself with those type of things, but I think that I hope they stand. I mean, it's gonna be a lot. Like I feel very emotional about that because for me because I'm thinking about just that Tennessee mindset, right? And I'm also thinking about like, okay, just letting Cyntoia go, but it's like we have to focus on. I think she needs to be granted the clemency, but I think that she needs to be a case of rehabilitation.
Yeah.
100%.
How do we go about reintroducing people into society?
I was talking to someone about this the fucking other day, and I was like, I just can't fucking believe this. I can't believe this. And, they said to me, Casey Anthony is walking around free.
Casey Anthony
I was like this.
Motherfucking walking
I got
around
so angered.
free.
I was like,
her baby was in her
bitch.
trunk.
I was like, that bitch.
Oh my god.
So that's just another example.
That just hit me in the chest so crazy. That's wild.
When he said that to me, I like literally almost died. I was like, wow, the flaws in the system for real. Like Casey Anthony is literally walking this land free.
But we'll obviously be talking about this more, and hopefully all of y'all are talking about it, and you keep talking about it, keep talking about her, keep talking about Botham Shimjan. Like, have
the conversations. Like I think I think what I hope that Brandon and I are showing you on the show is, based on some of our other videos, are what it's like to have a conversation with someone and not necessarily be on the same page, and be able to respectfully hear and listen without being disrespectful. I think it's very important that whatever these topics are something that you read in your own local newspaper and you want to just like talk to people about.
Oh, yes.
Have these conversations. Like make sure that
also send them to us if there's something that you've like been moved by, something that really is stuck in your craw. Feel free to send it to us because we want to talk about it. We want to research it. Your guys are all over the country in different places. There's a story that you might know about that we may have no idea about. You might be able to get a story more, notice across the board just by simply speaking up about it. And that's the beauty and the power of social media nowadays.
Exactly.
And I hope you guys know that, just to piggyback off what you said, like, you may see us, yell and scream and be roll our eyes but like I feel like that's what we do. This is how we converse, and because we love each other, we can come back. We can come back at it and be like, that's a real conversation that we had. And if you watched our live last week where we talked about bisexuality, that's a conversation that we're still having. You know what I mean?
I literally was on the phone with my good friend Timothy having a conversation with him today about bisexuality and literally going through it, kind of like, what do you think about this? Like, what is that? Like, tell me your feelings on this, and letting him. And what the cool thing about the conversation with my friend Timothy today was that I heard him working through it as I was asking him the questions.
Is he out?
Who?
Timothy.
No, he's straight.
Oh.
I
thought you said he was bisexual.
No, I said the conversation about bisexualty. Don't be outing Timothy. No, that conversation was interesting.
I'm asking you.
Oh, you gonna out Timothy, bitch? What you mean? Girl, let me tell you, if you heard that combo, so messy.
But yes, it's about having the conversations and opening up people's minds, because I think that, unfortunately, what you guys didn't get to see about last week is the further conversations that Brandon and I had about bisexuality and how, he understands where I'm coming from, and my mind was opened up in some ways that, we got to know each other a little bit better through the process, and understanding overall what this means. And not to say that my mind has completely changed and I'm wavering from the stance that I was in. It was just being in a safe space to have conversations with people, and even sometimes having conversations with assholes.
Yeah. But can I just say this real quick?
Sure.
I think one of the cool things that we had about our conversation, and it's from what we were talking about on Saturday, is that we talked about we in talking about bisexuality and following up on being in a relationship with a partner and that partner in the future wanting you to do something with them, right? The necessity to deal with the feelings that you have now,
yes,
right? Oh. So that in the future, it's something that you're not, you know what I mean? Because we talked about her feeling the way that she does about bisexuality and all of those things, and how that could dictate how your reaction is going to be in the future when you're with your partner, how you might not be receptive to it.
Yeah. So, and that's another part about having these conversations. It's like, fleshing these things out, dealing with these things now, because a lot of these issues and a lot of these conversations are reoccurring. Like, this life is cyclical, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, I'm having a conversation about bisexuality today. Who knows what my future will look like? I'm being faced with a black bisexual man coming into my life, and now I'm thinking about however many years ago, and I've said those things, and I'm hiding behind those feelings when I haven't really fleshed out what my true feelings were about that issue, as well as a lot of these conversations about race, as well as a lot of these conversations about the system,
And nobody's expecting anybody to be perfect, because none of us are perfect. I think very often you hear me talk about some of my own personal journeys, whether it be what I would define as good hair, or what I would like for my child to look like in regards to skin tone. Like, it's a continuing, learning process.
Evolving.
Yes.
Cause just being committed to the evolve and just keep going and fighting for what it is that you believe and that you want, and being dedicated to growth, really.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's it?
Yeah.
Should we go?
What is that? No, we're gonna do Okay. Brandon fucking whispering and shit.
Well, I don't want them to know.
But Thursday, we gotta really work on this. Tomorrow's Wednesday.
Yes.
Thursday,
yes.
We are talking about toxic relationships. And we are going to be starting it off with a nice person that we all know, just to make it really familiar. Cardi B and Offset.
Can you do the occur? Oh, you are a bird. You got it. I knew it.
We're
I think I was Eartha Kitt just now.
Yes.
That's not it.
Well, we're going to talk about toxic relationships and anything else that you guys want to share or add to the conversation as it pertains to unhealthy relationship things.
Talk to us, message us. Y'all got the Instagram.
Yes.
The DMs.
We're making sure that whoever is teetering on the line of being in a toxic relationship, that you do not bring this shit into 2018, and you do not bring that. I don't know.
Because you brought it into 2018.
I'm sorry.
Okay? We want you to leave it in 2018.
And whatever presents you got that mofo or MF or woman for Christmas, it goes back to the store. All right? It goes back to the store. You get your money back.
You spent $400 on that toxic mofo. Toxic as hell. He's like, let me spend $450 for this toxic pussy, for this toxic dick.
Because I'm toxic too. Because that's how it be. All right, so follow me on YouTube, Bitch Got a Couch, subscribe and watch and share. Also on Instagram, Bitch Got a Couch, as well as Facebook, Bitch Got a Couch. And Brandon, where should they follow you?
Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. Frodo 2030, watch me in all my shenanigans and all my nasty attitudes and all my selfies, because I love taking pictures of my face.
Ow.
So,
bye guys.
Damn, Stevie, you came at the very end.
Stevie, oh no, you late, girl.
Girl, you know
Stevie, I was looking for you and Malika.
Nah, nowhere. You done missed out on the whole conversation.
Bye guys.
All of Cyntoia and all the intersectionality of her case, girl. Listen, let us. You message me, okay? Tell me how you feel, girl. All right, we going, y'all. Peace.
We're gonna say bye, my love.
Peace. Bye, guys. Bye.